You're listening to the Casting for Fun podcast, the show that talks about entertainment, sports, music, and inspirational stories for all to enjoy. We're glad that you could join us today. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, here is your host, Albert Pineda.
Alberto Pineda, Bachelor of Science in Business Management.
Welcome, everyone, to the Casting for Fun podcast. I'm your host, Albert Pineda, and welcome to this new episode. I've graduated. I'm so excited to get to say that. I've finished my undergrad degree, earning my Bachelor's of Science in Business Management at Brigham Young University, Idaho. It's a huge thing for me. I'm very, very happy that I've been able to complete this journey. It took me 7 years, a little bit longer than most people. And yeah, it was a wonderful, rewarding experience for me that I got to do this past weekend to participate in commencement ceremonies. And yeah, the clip you just heard was me receiving my diploma, and I got the biggest ovation of the night. No, it was only because I was the very, very last student that they were cheering for everybody, not just me. I'm glad I got to have an audio file of that, so I can always go back and re-listen to it and remember how I felt the moment that my name was announced. And I'm so grateful for the love and support that I've had from family and friends throughout this whole process, but especially from my wonderful wife, Allison. I couldn't have done it without her. She's everything to me. And yeah, I'm grateful that I got to experience this, but also that I got to share this day of graduation with my good friend, Ryan Ferrante. So for this podcast, for this episode, I'm going to be talking with Stephanie and her husband, Ryan, good friends of mine, about our experiences studying with BYU Idaho online and graduation day and what the future holds. So it's going to be a really cool, really informative episode of the Casting for Fun podcast. So without further ado, here is my interview with Ryan and Stephanie Ferrante. Joining me now on the Casting for Fun podcast are my very good friends, Stephanie and Ryan Ferrante. Steph, Ryan, how are you guys?
Good. Thanks, Albert. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Very well. Recovered from the weekend?
Yeah.
Still recovering.
It was quite the weekend. Yeah, it was a very wonderful experience that we got to graduate. A long time coming for both of us, right, Steph?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I think the traveling back and forth is what was tiring. I mean, for you were stuck at the airport for a while. So I'm sure
we were. Yeah. Like, I mean, we had a layover for 3 hours, which we were prepared for, but then we got a flight delay. So it ended up being like 5.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
But Avery and Liam were troopers. They hung through in the end. So that was good.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So then we're home safe. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience. So thank you both for joining me tonight. I really wanted to talk about graduation day. It was an amazing experience for both of us, but also just talk about BYU Idaho in general, particularly studying online. And then Ryan, I would obviously have a few questions for you in regards to APU for furthering my education. So I think this is going to be a really informative episode of the podcast. Like a lot of people who are maybe looking to want to study online could probably gather some valuable information from what we're about to discuss.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us.
Sure, of course. So I want to start out just asking you both. So when you first heard about the BYU Pathway Program, what did you think, and what were your first impressions about studying online?
Well, for me, I did the BYU Idaho Pathways program in 2012, and around that time, it was fairly new. So for those who are not aware of what the Pathways program is, it's a program within our church, specifically for the schools that are part of our church, which is Brigham Young University, specifically Brigham Young University, Idaho. The Pathway program is a part of the university where people can study take classes online. Well, actually, the Pathway program, it's an actual program where you take specific classes. So for me, I was looking for an opportunity to continue my education, and this opportunity came up. And at the time, it was fairly new, so I didn't really know too many people that had participated in the program. And so when I heard about it, I had gone to school prior, but never finished. So when I heard about that there was a program that you can get into, potentially get into BYU, Brigham Young University, Idaho, continue studying where you left off, my first thoughts were like, perfect. I wanted to find something that I can continue my education while also not breaking the bank. And so that's another thing that was very interesting to me, was the fact that you could continue your education at it wasn't a large cost. It wasn't too expensive. So that's what really attracted me at first. What about you, Steph?
For me, I think it was the whole online schooling that was available. And the way I describe Pathways, it's kind of like a ramp. You don't like go on the freeway right away, like it's a ramp. You slowly get on and then eventually you're up to speed. So when I saw Pathways, it was kind of like for people who are returning to school after a long break, or this is their first experience with schooling and they're a little afraid of not keeping up. Pathways was kind of like I said, like a ramp. It kind of gets you up to speed by introducing one class at a time. And then eventually you transfer over after, I believe, a year.
Yes.
You transfer over to the full-on BYUI degree, which is, an actual degree that just like any other university. So I like the online part, and I like that I could do it on my own time because I work full time. So
awesome.
That's what I like about it.
Very cool. Very cool. When I returned home from my mission, I mean, that's what most people are like thinking about what they want to do for school. I really wanted to attend BYU Hawaii, but I had no savings. My grades were really poor. So it wasn't like I wasn't able just to be able to get in, not like my parents could afford to send me. So to me, it didn't seem like college, or more specifically BYU, was going to really be in the cards for me. So I just kind of like, floated around a little bit, did like community college here and there at PCC. Pasadena City College. But it was when I married Allison, and she talked about it on social media. She was saying basically she really wanted to encourage me and have me pursue a degree. Didn't matter where or how I did it, or just to get that degree, just to better my standing for employment and for job opportunities. So when I heard about it, it just seemed like a no-brainer. Yes, let's do this. Let's do online so I can actually go to Idaho BYU like I wanted to. Not my preferred BYU, I guess, but Idaho was still cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, and I just wanted to, you said something that kind of is similar to my experience. I was never a really good student in high school. And coming out of high school and going into starting college, I just kind of wasn't sure what to do. Quite frankly, I didn't have good grades. And it was just kind of one of those things, coming home from serving a church mission, was like, I want to go to school, but I don't even know where to start. And so that's where I loved the Pathways program, just because it helped me continue my education, even when I felt like, I didn't have good grades before. So it was really a blessing, because it just really got me back on track, and I was able to see kind of like the path towards getting an education or getting a degree. So it made it seem more realistic and obtainable. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So if you both could let our listeners know, what majors did you actually choose? What course of study did you want to go into when you started BYU Idaho?
I went into marriage and family studies. And that's more along the lines of like social work, / if you want to be like a counselor, like a therapist or anything like that, you go on to get your master's, but that's like the bachelor's you want to have to go that route.
Yeah. And for me, I did business and communications. So the degrees that they offer now at BYU in the Pathways program are a little bit different than when I did it. But my main thing was business management with an emphasis in communications.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, mine was pretty similar, but as you mentioned, Ryan, they've actually, I guess, expanded the amount of degrees that they offer. Mine was business management with emphasis on entrepreneurship.
Oh,
So,
cool.
but again, there's lots of so many different wonderful things you can learn about the business world, which I guess we learn about with the various classes we take, which is the next question that I have. So I wanted to get a feel from both of you. What were some of your favorite or more memorable classes or experiences you had studying online?
I took classes online for both like the local community college when I got my associate's degree. And then I took, the BYUI classes were all online. But I think my favorite at BYUI online was a parenting class that talked about like mindset, and it was more than just like how to parent your children, but it was like the approach on how to do it to raise your children so that you have a relationship that isn't based on like, if you behave, then I will treat you well type of thing. It was deeper than that. So I really, really enjoyed the parenting class that I took. I think that was my favorite. At Mount Sac, online, I took a history class. It was actually really fun to take online. It was challenging, very challenging, but it was probably one of my favorites because of the challenging part.
Awesome. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think for me, when I was at BYUI taking classes online, like I mentioned, I was in communications, taking classes in communications, but I also did like a minor in Spanish. And so I remember taking a class, it was like an intermediate level Spanish class. And it was a lot of fun. I think the reason why it was fun, and usually in online classes, you do the work and you turn in assignments and that's it. But this class was fun because we were actually able to get with other students and have like a weekly get together where we talk to each other and practice things. So I really like that. Normally, I'm not like a group work person just because I online doing group work, sometimes it's difficult just to coordinate with everybody's schedules and stuff. But this class was a lot of fun. And I think it was just being able to talk and just interact with each other. It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed that Spanish class.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Good. I did it for 7 years. I mean, it took a little bit longer than, how most people do their 4-year degree. But at the beginning, it was kind of in the beginning, maybe first or second year, there was this one particular class I took. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a business related class where we choose a specific brand and then we do a strategic analysis about that brand all throughout the semester. And it was actually kind of fun. So you could choose any brand you wanted. And it was almost kind of like a reflection of your personality, just seeing what other classmates were choosing. Like someone chose Disneyland, someone chose Starbucks coffee, which I thought was kind of interesting for LDS school. I chose Adidas, so Adidas apparel, footwear, everything, because I'm a big soccer fan. And it was kind of cool just learning how to do analytical analysis of the brand, like a SWOT analysis. So I felt it was very beneficial and really like got the creative juices flowing, as it were, when it came to studying. So that was actually a class that I really loved. And it almost didn't even feel like work. It was almost just like doing something I would do for fun on the side and getting graded for it.
Yeah, those are the best classes where you just don't feel like you're working. You're just having fun. So
yeah.
Especially if they give you the freedom to choose something that already interests you.
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful approach, because then you're already halfway invested,
Mm-hmm.
So kind of cool.
Yeah. But then on the flip side of that, you had your really more challenging and difficult classes. And as we can tell, I mean, studying online can be really cumbersome and really difficult at times. So if we could reflect on that, what were some of the more challenging, difficult classes? And what were maybe some of the challenges that online studying presented to you?
I think for me, one of my most challenging classes was probably research methods and statistics. Just because that one was online, and I wish I would have had someone that I could like ask questions, because I did my associates and I did that mainly in person. So I was able to kind of compare the two. And it was just nice to have a professor there that you can see a couple times a week and you're like, hey, do you have some time? I have a question. And I think with that one, they do have tutoring available. BYUI does have tutoring. And right now, it's virtual and everything, But at that moment, they only had one tutor for that entire topic. And so her time was super, super limited and she was always booked. And so one time when I booked her, she didn't even show up because she was just so busy. So I think that was my biggest challenge with that class, that, anything to do with math, I think can be a challenge if you don't do it in person.
No, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me, I can't remember a specific class that was difficult. It's been a
Probably
little
our
while.
math classes.
Yeah, probably math for sure. Steph can confirm that any math class I had, I struggled. But I think the main thing that was difficult was, although learning online and doing school online is convenient at times, and I really enjoyed that, it was hard to kind of, if you're struggling, to figure out how to do some of the things, because you really just had to do it, learn on your own, read the book. So for me, I can't remember a specific class, but I do remember at times going on YouTube or any other place, trying to figure out how to do things. And it did teach me how to figure things out on my own.
That's true.
Which I do appreciate, but it was challenging because, like, in a classroom setting, you do have your teacher there that you can ask questions. Now, don't get me wrong, you can reach out to the professor, you can ask questions even though you're taking online classes, but you just don't have the convenience of having someone in front of you. So you might have to wait a while, and me, I can get a little impatient, so I'll try to figure it out. So I think that's the challenge. Not specifically any class that was difficult, was just any class that I took, I had to sometimes figure things out for myself.
Yeah, work a little harder, I think, compared to in-person classes.
Oh, yeah.
And I think one thing that I would recommend to anyone that does online schooling is find a friend at the beginning of the semester, or a few, and just have like a little group where you can discuss things, or even like, because some of my best classes were the ones where the professor made us meet weekly, like as a requirement. And it was like a study group. And that's the only way I was able to get through statistics, because we literally had to meet every single week, twice a week or something, for like 2 hours. And it was a really, really good experience because we were able to help each other out. So I think that's the best thing that I did to help me with that challenging class.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely highly recommend reaching out for outside help wherever you can get it for studying. For me, I had a hard time struggling with the accounting classes that I had to take, both financial and managerial. And so much so that I had tried the online tutors, like Steph had mentioned earlier, but they weren't actually working out for me. So I ended up hiring a professional tutor from an outside company, which actually, if I can do a plug-in for them, it's for the website Wisnet, I think. Why isn't something like that? I have to look it up, and I'll post it in the description. But basically, I paid an outside tutor, a professional one, like hourly. Of course, actually, his wage was only like $40 for 30 minutes of studying. And if you went less than the session, you actually only got charged by the minute, which was pretty cool. So sometimes I didn't need that much tutoring. I was actually getting it down pretty good because of his influence. So I ended up maybe needing only 20 minutes, or sometimes even 15 minutes of his time. So I definitely recommend that for a study situation in case anybody needs it. But the important thing that I think I learned from the struggles was just to plug through. I mean, reach out for help and have faith in yourself and that you can do hard things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and look for resources, because Albert, I told you about that Facebook page, the BYUI online community. That was a huge help to me, just because any questions I had, someone knew, like someone always knew the answer to something, And even when people are struggling with like a math problem, it's like, can someone help me figure this out? And it was like someone would jump on and it's like, yeah, do this, or, so I think finding the right resources is like the perfect way to start just when you're struggling.
Yeah. And I think too, it can be a little intimidating at first, because you're kind of like, how am I going to learn all this stuff on, it's just me and the computer and some videos that maybe the teacher shares. But I found that there is community of people that are willing to, on social media, to help you, whether it be in a group that's created within the school or even just general groups.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, and specifically YouTube. I can't express enough how much it's helped me. Just there's so many resources out there that, like, at first it can seem intimidating, but it really, as you get going, and Albert and Steph knows too, that as you get going, you get a flow of how things work, and how to study, and you learn how to study. And, doing continuing education can seem, like a big step, which it is, but it's doable.
Yeah.
And the resources are there. And so I really highly recommend, that if anybody were to feel like they wanted to continue their education, but are a little bit hesitant or afraid to do so, it's possible. It totally is possible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then after all the hard work, after everything's done, we get to the exciting part, graduation day, which is what I want to talk about now. So Steph and Ryan, if you could share your experiences with participating in graduation ceremonies. Obviously, Ryan, you had earned your bachelor's many years before, but I don't remember if you actually went on campus to participate in the ceremonies. And Steph, if you could tell us about your experiences. And I guess we all kind of learned together, right, that commencement and convocation aren't the same thing.
Yeah. So I graduated with my bachelor's from BYUI back in April of 2017. So the format of how graduation is back then to what it is now is pretty much the same. When I went up, it was super cold in Rexburg, because the graduation's actually in Rexburg. So if someone's doing their degree online through BYUI, you are basically there at the graduation just like anybody else. But my experience was that when we were up there, I had a great time. It was a great experience to see that after all the hard work and effort that I put into the degree and studying, that I did it, walking on the stage and getting your diploma, and, experiencing the whole with wearing your cap and gown. At first, I wasn't really sure if I wanted to do it, but Steph encouraged me, which I'm very glad that she did. And I had a wonderful experience, being able to experience that graduation, that ceremony, which was, I really enjoyed.
Yeah. And for me, same. I kind of hesitated to go just because with everything being so up in the air because of the pandemic and everything, Albert, you know how it's been. We weren't really sure if it was happening or not for a little while. So I was kind of like unsure. And a friend of mine pretty much was like, no, you worked way too hard to not get closure, pretty much. And I was like, oh, I think you're right. And so I finally just decided to go. And I'm so glad I did it and that I went. I was able to take my mom and my sister with me, and I'm the first in my family or in my generation to graduate from get a degree, pretty much. And so that was a really neat experience for my mom because, she hadn't experienced one of her kids get a degree before. So I loved it. I think the only downfall that I saw was that I wish they would have communicated with us a little bit more, because I think, Albert, you and I were kind of lost. And since we're online students, we're not too familiar with the campus. So I was a little lost, but after I figured it out, I was like, okay, it's fine. But the experience overall was great.
Yeah, I definitely have a story to share with all that about the whole commencement and everything with that. So we decided we wanted to go, or actually, to put it the correct way, I wasn't like that sold, but Allison absolutely insisted. So she made it happen. She worked so hard to make it happen for me that we could go. So we had to fly into Salt Lake. From there, we stayed with friends and then got a rental car to drive all the way to Rexburg with both kids in tow. We had to get a hotel, not in Rexburg, because Rexburg is too small of a city, so there's no hotels available. So we had to get in Idaho Falls, which was really cool that we got to be in the same hotel as you guys on the same floor too.
Two doors down.
And it wasn't planned.
But so we're, again, we don't, neither Allison and I are that experience with Idaho. We don't really know the time frame and how long it takes to get places. So we leave from Idaho Falls to get to Rexburg, and we're late. And it's like, oh no, what do we do? Is this like pretty scary? Am I gonna miss my ceremony? And so Allison drops me off. She takes both kids with her to find parking. So I run into the auditorium. I'm luckily able to find it just by word of mouth asking people. And so I'm running in. I'm about 5-10 minutes late anyways. The ceremony's already started. And Allison has to run in with both kids and the diaper bag in her purse. So I superwoman. I don't know how she does it, but she did it. And then so I get there and they politely just show me where to sit. And they had, I guess, initially had people from the department sitting in different sections, which what I was interesting. And also, depending on what major you're going for, you had different convocation ceremonies. And it was kind of weird to learn that there's a difference between that and commencement. I just assumed all of it was just graduation. So so Steph's was actually later in the evening. Mine was at 4. And I guess it's a good thing that it was at 4 because the kids wouldn't have handled it at all doing a late night convocation.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. So I had to sit all the way in the very back because I was about 5 or 10 minutes late. And then I had a little post-it note with my name and major on it. And they just do a short message. And then after that, they call all the students up as Ryan was describing. And I got to be the very, very last student because I was the last one there. But it was pretty cool that as they read my name, the announcer read it with like such vigor and like it was like really exciting. I guess it was like the very last name.
Grand finale.
And I ended up getting the biggest ovation of the convocation ceremony just because I was
nice.
Allison has a recording of it, so I'm gonna post it into the podcast somewhere. Maybe
That'd be cool to listen to. That's really cool.
But
I found pretty long because at mine they had this is bad. I'll tell you my story. Mine was at 8 p.m. So we had the commencement at 6 and it went until about 7:30, right, Albert? Around there?
Yeah.
And then they had to run back in at 8. And in ours, they had Elder Anderson in ours.
Oh, they did? Oh, cool.
They did. And the president of the school. So it was like, so they both spoke.
Oh, wow.
So it went on so late.
It was long.
It was long. And I was like, and we had our friend who we wanted to visit with because we were only seeing him for a couple hours and he came and he lives in Rexburg. So we had planned to go to dinner with him, but if anybody's familiar with Rexburg, everything closes early. So it was like 8:30, almost 9. It was after 9.
Yeah.
Almost 9:30. And they finally got around to reading our names. And after I got my degree holder thingy, I left. I just kept walking and I didn't go back to my chair.
Just walked out the door and we followed her.
My family looked at me all confused and they're like, where are you going? I'm like, we gotta go. And so I just left because it was just taking forever.
Yeah.
And I was the first group and our group was huge. So there was still probably another like 200 students to go after me. And I was like, if we wait, we're not going to get to hang out with our friend. So
yeah, she just kept on walking and I was like, wait, you got to go sit down. And she's like, no, let's go. So we just followed her out. Everybody's probably looking at us like, what are you guys doing? But we didn't care. We were just like, all right, they called your name. You got your degree, you're done. So let's go.
I know. I felt kind of bad, but I mean, I really wanted to hang out with our friend at dinner. So luckily the Applebee's stayed open pretty late. So
that's where the party's at in Rexburg. Applebee's have all places.
I now understand the Applebee's on a date night song.
Oh, jeez.
I get it now.
But yeah.
That's popping.
That's so for us, I mean, because we had the kids in tow, we had to get it back, and then so we got him back to Idaho Falls, and then we chose Outback Steak. Actually, initially we had chose Applebee's as well, but the Applebee's in Idaho Falls, they didn't have enough staff on hand. They couldn't take any more reservations because they just didn't. So we went to Outback, and actually Allison was able to work a little magic, and they sat us sooner than what they told. They would initially do. I think maybe because they saw that we had 2 young kids.
Yeah.
Pity on us.
And you had a long day. You drove 3 hours and then
sat
through like another 3 hours of ceremonies. So
Oh yeah, Avery and Liam were absolute troopers. They were as cooperative as they could be for Allison, and of course Allison just being as wonderful as she is, and she's just right over here listening.
Oh.
Yeah, so she was able. Oh, here we go, special guest. Really quick, I wanted to just touch on the commencement ceremony. And again, just in case anyone hasn't figured it out listening, convocation is where they actually hand you your diploma, or rather the case holder, as Stephanie put it, because they mail you your actual diploma itself later. But commencement is when they actually have a keynote speaker, someone significant to the university. I mean, I've heard like for other universities, they've had maybe like celebrities or famous people who have attended. Like I want to say, I think George Lucas has done commencement speeches at USC before. Yeah. So we had Elder Anderson, ELL Anderson of the Quorum Militaire, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. I shook his hand.
Oh, you did? Oh, awesome. That's cool.
He handed me, no, he didn't hand me anything, just his hand.
Oh.
I was like, did he hand me something? No, he just shook my hand.
But yeah, I always remember his speech that he gave us, just the importance of remembering at any stage of your life, just asking yourself the question, who are you listening to? And I can actually even apply that to the whole situation with going to graduation, because if I hadn't been listening to Allison, I wouldn't have gone. So definitely your spouse can have a huge important impact on your life. And of course, listening to Allison is what encouraged me to pursue education for my undergrad, and now as I'm moving forward to learning my master's degree. Again, it's the positive influence of not Allison, obviously, but other people around me who have been supporting me throughout the years. So it's very important to be listening to the right people, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you're set to start in the fall, right, Albert?
I am, yes. So I've been accepted to the Masters of Business Management program at Azusa Pacific University. And then speaking of listening to people, I mean, it was Ryan's suggestion to say, hey, for APU. So here I am. I'm really excited to begin furthering my education, as the church has encouraged us to be lifelong learners. And that if I do want to actually get ahead in life, I do need to increase, I guess, like build myself up even more. So I wanted to ask you, Ryan, I mean, you had the amazing experience of graduating from APU last summer. And I got to talk to Sean briefly about that when I had him on the show last week about his pizza business for the party we had for you. So this, I guess, question is more for me and not so much for the listeners, but maybe they can find some value out of this too. What can I expect as I begin to start with APU, and how similar do you think it was to BYU Idaho for the online program?
Well, my experience, I had a wonderful experience at APU. Once I graduated BYUI, I had no idea of what it would take for me to get into a master's program. And I had some coworkers of mine that told me about the APU, Azusa Pacific University. And I just decided I should apply. So fast forward, I got approved. I was able to register and everything, and I didn't know what to expect. I was so used to how classes were at BYUI, and being a new university, I thought, well, is it going to be a lot of work? What am I going to expect? How are the teachers going to be? But I absolutely loved APU. The teachers were wonderful. The class sizes are about 20 students per class. There's a lot of interactive work, not group work, but you do communicate with others on the weekly basis. So you get to know the same students because they're in the same program. So it was nice because I was able to use, I had a support system of people I could reach out to. So I would say someone who's going into it, like for you, Albert, going into this program, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
You always said it was easier than your bachelor's.
That's one thing that I didn't understand. I heard people say, your master's degree is easier than your bachelor's. And I just used to think, well, that's your experience. And I can only attest to what I experienced, but I almost felt like my master's program was a little bit easier than what I had to go through for my bachelor's. Yeah. There's a lot of writing, which I'm okay with, but I don't know if easier is the best word, but maybe it's because you're focusing so much on what your degree is. it's
You enjoy it.
yeah, you enjoy
more.
it a little bit more. That's my experience. So for someone who's starting like yourself, Albert, I would say feel free to ask questions, because the professors at APU are wonderful. They're very quick with responding. If you have questions or concerns, they're great. And there's just APU is another Christian university, private Christian university, and they are very they're very inclusive. They want you to share your beliefs, and they want you to be able to feel comfortable, and the environment is very friendly. So it's a wonderful experience. I love the time I was there, and I'm very excited for you that you're going to be able to have that opportunity as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. That's very encouraging and really awesome to hear. So I'm very, very excited. And again, very grateful for your friendship and your support as I go forward and do this. How about you, Steph? Do you know what your future education plans hold for you, or have you gotten that far yet?
Yeah, I've actually been looking into it this week because I came back kind of motivated. Because, Albert, when you kind of finish school, you're like, oh, great, a break. You're just kind of like enjoying that time off. But after this week, I was kind of like motivated to look back into like maybe going to grad school. And I'm looking at Cal Poly. They have
awesome.
a good Master's of Psychology program. So I want to go that route, I think. I was debating between social work to be like a licensed clinical social worker. You can get an MSW, Master's of Social Work, and then go that route. But I've always liked psychology a little bit more. So I think that's the route I'm going to go. And it's not that expensive compared to other universities that are private. So Cal Poly, I think is, and it's, close to me. So, and I actually got into Cal Poly right out of high school. So I've always had the dream of going back to Cal Poly and finally graduating as a Bronco. So.
Awesome. Very cool. And would that be online, or you go in person, or what were you?
I think their program is in person, but I know that because of the pandemic, I know a lot of things changed and they're offering some classes online.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, that was one thing that Ryan you had mentioned to me before, that you could actually do like a hybrid schedule, if you would, for at APU for both online and in person, which again, I think I'm really comfortable with online, so I could probably keep up with that route. But I love that there's a in and out, right? Like walking distance from APU.
Some motivation to go, right?
Yeah, just to grab a
yeah, you got that spot right there.
Like there's a lot of food out there.
Yeah, I mean,
no, but oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say that it's flexible. That's the nice thing about it, is that if one semester you're like, you know what, I don't have time to drive in and go, I want to do it on my own, choose online. And then other times you might say, well, this class might be better for in person, then you can sign up for in person. So that's a nice thing with technology now, that it's just opportunities, right? You could do hybrid, which is really nice.
True.
Awesome. Okay, so any last minute thoughts about BYU Idaho online? Like any thoughts, impressions you wanted to share, both good and positive, or feedback, maybe things that the school could maybe do differently?
Well,
I think we were just briefly talking about it. We love our experience with what we did during Pathways to get us to BYUI.
Pathways is great. They have a really good. They give you like they call them service missionaries, right, Albert? Like the couple. Yeah. And they kind of guide you along the way. You meet with them weekly, and any questions you have, they're pretty much they hold your hand through the process.
Your personal counselors.
It's like your personal counselors. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So I really like that. I wish it would have continued into BYUI, I think, because a lot of the times, and Albert, you and I would discuss this, where it's like, how do we apply for graduation? How do we do that? How do we get this? How do we do that? What's with the internship? So it's like little things like that I wish they would have. And I told Ryan, I was like, if BYUI would listen to me, I wish they would use their like internships from students that are graduating and make them counselors for a semester, to students that are doing online, because then they'd be able to mentor us a little bit better. As a resource if you need or have questions. Yeah. For sure. That'd be really cool. And if they each got a couple of students, that'd be a really good project to practice being a counselor. For them. And it'd be a huge help to us, because I would have loved to have someone that I knew there that'd be like, oh, meet me here and I'll show you how to get there or something.
Mhm.
So, and Albert, you and I were talking at graduation. We're like, where are you?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
I had heard on the Facebook page that you had mentioned, Steph, like somebody had said that that department heads were supposed to be sending out emails. I didn't get anything,
I didn't get
but
anything at all.
but I
And
guess we figured out on our own, right? What we're supposed to do.
well, and then did they print your name in the program?
I didn't get a program, unfortunately.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, they didn't print my name, even though I like applied for it. So I was kind of annoyed at that too. So,
Mhm. But the
There's
most
that.
important thing is we got our diplomas that has our
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, I was like, I guess it's fine.
And I think it's because it's growing so
Yeah.
fast that they're maybe having a challenge keeping up with the increase of graduates.
Yeah.
Because I think the statistic, I don't know exactly, but they mentioned it in the main meeting,
In the
the
commencement.
commencement, that about half of the graduates there were online students.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which from when I graduated in 2017, it was way lower back
There's
then.
like 5 of them.
Well, I wouldn't say that much, but no, it was a lot less. So you can see that now it's growing more students
Yeah.
from doing online. So I think one suggestion, if BYUI were listening,
Dear BYUI.
no, if they were, I would say utilize some of the students to be resources,
Yeah.
because it's growing faster and faster, and there needs to be more open communication.
Yeah.
Like, where do you go on graduation? How do you apply? And stuff like that, so you can feel a little bit more oriented to what to do.
That's true.
Mhm.
But overall, I mean, like I said, the Pathways program was great. I would do that 1,000 times over again. It was a really good experience. And BYU, it was very convenient. It was affordable, and it was doable because you do it on your own time. So there's pros and cons. And like I told Ryan earlier, we were talking, and Ryan loves online schooling, and I prefer in person, just because I'm a little bit more like social. I just want to hang out with people, but you can do, you can do it. It's just you have to establish those connections with your classmates so that you still have that social aspect.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Great. I think that sounds perfect. I don't know if I have anything else to add. I mean, just that I would absolutely agree that my experience was wonderful, that it was challenging and tough, but also rewarding, in some cases pretty easy and fun. So
Yeah.
I would definitely do it again, and I'm looking forward to what the future holds for me for my future educational endeavors.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I love
Ryan
AP.
and Steph, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Did you have any other talking points, even not necessarily related to school? I know I mentioned we could talk Dodgers, or even the Billie Eilish concert that you just went to. If you want to mention it really fast.
Yeah. No, Billy was great. I loved it. I went with my sisters. It was probably one of the best shows I've been to. She was
Awesome.
really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to this Dodgers season.
I don't
So
know,
we'll
man.
have
They've been
to.
disappointing me already.
It's only the beginning of the season. What are you talking about? But no, we got to go to a game, sometime
Yeah.
soon.
Oh,
But-
Allison's been already planning that. So we have I think 2 or 3 arrangements with friends, and I know she absolutely wants to do a game with you guys. So we'll
Yeah,
put
That'd be fun.
I guess she's
that'd be
nodding at me, yes. So
Yeah, that'd be fun. But I think real quick, if I could, Albert, I just
yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to say that, like, if there's anybody that's listening that's thinking about continuing their education, trust me, if I could do it, and I mean this, if I could do it, anybody could do it. I was a horrible student. And
I've seen the transcripts.
yes. So I really want to make it clear that if anybody is out there thinking, well, I don't know if I can do it, or I want to do it and I'm not sure, look into it. There's the Pathways
Yeah.
program. It's affordable, it's cheap. There's also other programs out there. Like, I know there's University of the People, which is another organization, nonprofit organization that does online degrees at a low cost.
Yeah.
But my main point is,
Do it.
if you feel like you want it, you can do it. And then that's coming from someone who didn't believe in myself at first. And after this, it's like, okay, I was able to do it. So I highly recommend continuing education, whether it be through a university or trade or whatever.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Any other talking points, or are we done for tonight? We wrapped up?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, Ryan, Steph, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with me. This was so much fun to talk about this. A little change of pace from what I usually talk about on my podcast. I think this will be very informative. I don't know anybody personally who's going to be graduating from BYU Idaho anytime soon, but I guess as soon as they do, they'll definitely want to take a listen to this podcast so they can be prepared.
Yeah. Oh, and if you want to give people a heads up about the price, it's like, I want to say last year I went, how many classes did I take last year? Maybe like 3 plus 2. I don't know. I took like 12 classes maybe. And I think I paid like $2,000.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's about right around
Yeah,
there.
I want to say, I mean, initially, I think it was half off tuition, but I think it went up a little bit more, but it was still
Right.
really significantly less than going in person, whereas you get the exact same degree and it doesn't specify whether it's online or in person.
So just to be transparent, I wanted, because you know, people don't really talk about money sometimes. So
Yeah. But I mean, if you want to just take it slow, I mean, if you only just do one class at a time on a semester, no matter how fast or how slow you're going, just always be looking to progress and to move as far ahead as you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much, Ryan and Seth. This was so much fun, and I'm glad that we had the chance to talk. And I definitely love to get together and do it again sometime.
All right.
Well, thanks, Albert. It was fun, and keep up the good work on the podcast. Love listening.
Oh, thanks, guys. Okay, have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too.